You've meticulously executed every instruction, every lauded technique. Each dawn, you conjure vivid visualizations. Your aspirations are painstakingly scripted, affirmations repeated with devout consistency. Meditation is a non-negotiable sanctuary. You consciously endeavor to maintain alignment, to vocalize in elevated frequencies, and to relentlessly reassure yourself of an unshakable trust in the cosmos. Yet, as you survey your tangible world, the landscape remains achingly, disappointingly familiar. Different calendar months usher in the same emotional tides. New intentions yield the same well-worn outcomes. A profound bewilderment takes root. Despite this monumental, unwavering effort, the relationships you magnetize still bear an uncanny resemblance to those you desperately seek to transcend. Your financial equilibrium seems perpetually reset to a default of just enough or not quite. Irrespective of the force you exert, your inner world vacillates precariously between surges of hope and the quiet, creeping despair. And beneath this intricate tapestry of striving, a single question begins to resonate with increasing, deafening volume. What am I fundamentally doing wrong? Why does my existence feel like an inescapable, repeating loop? Herein lies the unvarnished truth. The fault does not reside within you. It is not a deficiency in your intrinsic worth, a limitation of your boundless potential, a failing of your intellect, or even a shortfall in your dedicated effort. The crux of the matter is your frequency. The quantum field, that vast ocean of potentiality, operates on principles far removed from human exertion. It remains indifferent to the sheer intensity of your longing. It does not tally the hours spent in visualization, nor does it reward the fervor of your affirmations or the volume of positive vibrations you consciously attempt to project. The quantum field responds to one singular, unwavering constant: the signal you broadcast consistently and unconsciously, beneath the veneer of every word uttered and every action taken. It is the subtle, almost imperceptible vibration you embody when the curtains are drawn, when no one is observing, when the performance ceases, when you are not actively engaged in the act of manifesting. You are not ensnared because you are failing at the art of manifestation. You are ensnared because you have yet to fundamentally cease vibrating at the frequency of the version of yourself you have consciously, intellectually outgrown. And until that foundational vibration dissolves, the field will, with impeccable fidelity, continue to reflect it back to you, not as an act of cosmic cruelty, but as a demonstration of perfect, unwavering coherence. The quantum field is inherently neutral. It casts no judgment upon your desires, deeming them neither good nor bad, right nor wrong. It merely, and with profound accuracy, mirrors the energetic reality you hold as intrinsically true. This is the precise reason why, regardless of the multitude of new vision boards you meticulously craft, the countless guided meditations you diligently follow, or the library of self-help books you consume, your life can still feel eerily, persistently the same. This isn't personal. It's a matter of physics. There exists a law, seldom taught in conventional schooling, the law of vibrational repetition. Whatever your subconscious mind has cataloged and accepted as safe, it will unerringly recreate. This recreation is not driven by alignment with your highest good or most cherished aspirations, but by its profound, ingrained familiarity. And the quantum field interprets this persistent familiarity as if it were an explicit command. It essentially perceives, this is the emotional state you inhabit most frequently. This is the baseline of your expectation. This is the version of reality in which you are energetically stabilized. Very well, we shall continue to reinforce that. And so, it does relentlessly, cycle after cycle. You do not manifest from the images on your vision board. You manifest from the intricate wiring of your nervous system. You manifest from the subtle energy you emit when you are not consciously thinking about manifestation, when you are simply navigating the currents of your daily life, when you are reacting to unforeseen circumstances, when you are processing stress, when you are grappling with disappointment, when you are celebrating triumphs or mourning losses. You manifest from the underlying tone of your thoughts when you are utterly alone in the deep stillness of the night, from the way you genuinely feel about yourself when plans go awry, from the energetic signature you hold in the quiet, unobserved spaces between your conscious, deliberate efforts. This is the fundamental reason why individuals find themselves repeating the same cyclical patterns. Because even when the external behaviors are modified, the habits, the routines, the rituals, the inner foundational baseline often remains untouched, unaltered. You can recite abundance 100 times a day, but if your physical body, your very cells, are still intrinsically wired for scarcity, the quantum field doesn't register abundance. It perceives lack, and it responds with unwavering accordance. Most people fail to grasp that the field is not penalizing them. It is simply reflecting their core, dominant signal with absolute, unerring accuracy. But here is the crucial insight that most people overlook. This is not an indictment, not a sign that you are intrinsically broken. It is not definitive proof that you are unworthy. It is not even evidence that you are inherently bad at manifesting. It is quite simply a mirror, a precise, unflinching vibrational mirror. And mirrors, by their very nature, do not lie. They merely and faithfully reflect. So what if, instead of relentlessly chasing after a new reality with an ever-expanding arsenal of techniques, tools, books, and courses, you cultivated an internal state so profoundly coherent that you allowed the field to reflect something entirely different? What if the authentic work isn't about layering more on top, but about meticulously dissolving the old, resonant frequencies that keep looping, almost like an invisible, self-perpetuating code running silently in the background of your life, dictating your experiences without your conscious, explicit consent? Because here is the unassailable reality. You cannot out-affirm your deeply ingrained energetic baseline. You cannot manifest at a higher vibrational level while remaining anchored in the emotional patterns and vibrational habits of your past. You cannot expand into the magnificent potential of your future self while desperately clinging to the same narratives, the same limiting self-perceptions, the same frequency signatures that defined who you once were. The loop persists not because your efforts are insufficient, but because you are still, at a fundamental level, repeating the same vibrational signature. You might be engaging in the same morning routine, but it's underscored by the same persistent undercurrent of fear. You might be chanting the same mantras, but they are tinged with the same residual self-doubt. You might be taking new, inspired actions, but you are carrying them out with the same old, contracted energetic postures. And the field, with its exquisite sensitivity, picks up on that as the primary signal and reflects it with relentless, unwavering consistency. This is the very root of quantum repetition. The field isn't resisting your heartfelt desires. It is meticulously reflecting your established identity. And identity isn't merely what you proclaim it to be. It's what your frequency declares it to be. It is the cumulative sum of what you deeply expect, what you unconsciously allow, what you silently tolerate, what you habitually settle into when nobody is watching, when the rituals are concluded, and it is just you, alone with your authentic energy. Therefore, if you genuinely wish to cease repeating the same reality, you must first cease repeating the same underlying frequency. And to achieve that, you must become exquisitely, profoundly aware of what you have been unconsciously looping, emotionally, mentally, vibrationally. Because until you consciously interrupt that loop, you are not truly manifesting a new life. You are merely redecorating the old one with prettier words, shinier tools, and more sophisticated sounding techniques. But here lies the pivotal shift. Once you become consciously aware of the loop, once you can name it, observe it, and feel it without collapsing into its familiar embrace, you can then consciously choose to step out of it. That is the very essence of quantum shifting. Not forcibly wrestling a new reality into being, but becoming a new frequency, so the reality that intrinsically matches it collapses effortlessly, naturally around you. And that is precisely what we are poised to explore together. In the subsequent section, you will discover the intricate ways your subconscious mind creates vibrational echoes that perpetuate the same experiences. You will understand why your conscious mind often resists change, even when your soul is crying out for it. And you will uncover the missing key to co-creating a new reality, not through exhaustive effort, but through resonant alignment. We are not merely discussing theory here. We are embarking on a journey of transformation. Deep, lasting, vibrationally authentic transformation. So take a profound breath. Allow the old, constricting frequency to loosen its tenacious grip. Let the patterns you have clearly outgrown begin to dissolve within the luminous space of your expanding awareness. And prepare yourself, because in the very next section you are going to see with crystal clarity exactly how your energy has been looping and, more importantly, how to decisively break it. Let us venture deeper. You now grasp the fundamental concept. What's repeating is not your immutable fate, but your dominant frequency. But how does this mechanism actually operate beneath the surface of conscious awareness? How do your subconscious mind, your intricate nervous system, and the vast quantum field collaborate to keep you experiencing the same reality again and again, even when consciously you yearn for something profoundly different? It commences with this foundational understanding. Your subconscious mind is not primarily designed to ensure your happiness. This paramount design is to ensure your safety. And safe, in the lexicon of the subconscious, does not equate to fulfilled. Safe does not mean expanded. Safe invariably means familiar. Your subconscious diligently holds the cumulative sum of all your experiences, beliefs, traumas, and conditioned emotional responses, all intricately wired together through years, perhaps even lifetimes, of relentless reinforcement. These deeply ingrained patterns forge what neuroscientists term neural pathways, veritable grooves of thought, feeling, and behavior that, over time, become automatic, effortless, and predominantly unconscious. Your nervous system then takes these established pathways and memorizes them, encoding them as your default settings. How you instinctively respond to stress, how you characteristically experience and express love, how you habitually manage your finances, how you typically perceive opportunities, how you reflexively process rejection. All these ingrained patterns coalesce to form a distinct vibrational blueprint, an energetic signature that your body continuously emits, even when your conscious mind is preoccupied with something entirely different. Herein lies the critical catch. The quantum field responds directly to that blueprint. Not to your articulated intentions, not to your heartfelt wishes, not to the words you speak aloud with conviction, but to the frequency you are most consistently, habitually broadcasting, your dominant vibrational signature. And the vast, overwhelming majority of that signature is unconscious, emitted from your body's automatic physiological responses, your habitual emotional states, your reflexive thought patterns, and your default self-perception. This is precisely why initiating and sustaining change feels so arduous. Because when you attempt to manifest something new, you are often unknowingly operating from the very same subconscious program that architected the current reality you are so desperately trying to escape. It's akin to attempting to write a completely new story while the same old, familiar script is running insidiously in the background, relentlessly autocorrecting everything you type back to what it has always known, back to what it deems normal. Let's integrate the principles of quantum physics for a moment. In the quantum model, reality exists not as a fixed, immutable state, but as a boundless field of infinite possibilities. Each potential reality subsists as a wave of probability. However, these probabilities do not collapse into tangible, physical form until there is observation, focused intention, and, most crucially, coherence. Coherence is the harmonious alignment of your energy across all levels: mental, emotional, physical, and vibrational. Without this profound coherence, your signal is scattered, weak, and inconsistent. And a scattered, inconsistent signal simply cannot override a long-standing, deeply ingrained, and powerfully resonant frequency. This is the precise juncture where most individuals become stuck. They attempt to force change primarily from the level of conscious thought, oblivious to the fact that their subconscious programming is still broadcasting the same old, familiar signal at a much more powerful, pervasive amplitude. Neuroscience informs us that up to a staggering 95% of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are unconscious, habitual patterns. This means that, at best, only a mere 5% of your energy is actively, consciously participating in the creation of something new, while the remaining 95% is diligently, automatically reinforcing what already exists. This imbalance explains why, despite your most valiant efforts to think positively or to maintain a high vibration, you may find yourself repeatedly attracting the same kinds of challenging relationships, persistent financial difficulties, recurring health issues, or familiar emotional experiences. Your subconscious mind is still intricately wired for those patterns, and your body is still faithfully emitting the frequency of those very experiences. thereby creating a powerful magnetic field that inexorably draws in more of the same. In quantum terminology, your observation, your conscious focus, may be intently directed towards your desired reality, but your vibration, your embodied energetic frequency, is still profoundly entangled with the reality you are striving to leave behind. The quantum field responds not to what you want, but to what you are. And what you are is largely determined by the subconscious patterns you haven't yet successfully interrupted and transmuted. Let's make this even more tangible and practical. Reflect upon the last time you endeavored to make a significant change in your career, your relationships, your health, or your mindset. What transpired? Likely, you felt an initial surge of excitement, brimming with motivation, fully prepared to take bold, new actions. But then, insidiously, resistance began to creep in. Self-doubt surfaced with unwelcome familiarity. Old, deep-seated fears re-emerged, casting long shadows. You found yourself procrastinating. You engaged in subtle or not-so-subtle acts of self-sabotage. You conjured a myriad of plausible reasons to delay or defer. That sequence of events wasn't random. That was your subconscious mind actively attempting to pull you back into the familiar, into what it knows, into what feels safe. Even if that safety is interwoven with profound pain. The body plays an undeniably crucial role in this dynamic. Dr. Joe Dispenza frequently articulates that the body is the subconscious mind. Your body remembers with visceral clarity the feelings, the stress responses, the emotional habits that collectively define your current identity. And every single time you attempt to shift into a new state of being, your body resists, not because it harbors any malicious intent to hurt you, but because it has been meticulously conditioned over years to keep you confined within the known parameters of what it recognizes. The body craves predictability, and so it diligently generates thoughts, emotions, and impulses meticulously designed to pull you back into the well-worn loop. This is precisely how the mechanism of quantum repetition operates. Subconscious programming establishes and maintains a consistent vibrational field. The quantum field, in its neutrality, mirrors that field back to you as your perceived reality. And your subsequent experiences then serve to reinforce the initial programming, thereby creating an endless, self-perpetuating feedback loop. Until, and this is the absolute key, you become consciously aware of the loop, observe it without judgment or self-recrimination, and deliberately, intentionally introduce a new, coherent frequency into the system. But let us be unequivocally clear. You cannot brute force your way out of this intricate entanglement. You cannot simply overpower years, or even decades, of subconscious conditioning with a few fleeting minutes of visualization or a list of affirmations dutifully taped to your bathroom mirror. That is why so many individuals feel deeply frustrated and disillusioned with conventional manifestation practices, because they are, by and large, working at the surface level while the true underlying mechanism of creation operates deep beneath the threshold of conscious awareness. The quantum shift necessitates profound coherence, the seamless alignment of your conscious desires with your subconscious beliefs and your embodied emotional state. It requires meticulously tuning your entire vibrational field to resonate with a new frequency. Not just thinking new thoughts, but genuinely feeling new emotions, consistently practicing new behaviors, and courageously embodying a new identity. And this is precisely where most people stop, teetering right on the precipice of transformation, yet unable to cross the threshold because they remain inextricably entangled with the familiar frequency of their old self. But you do not have to stop here. You do not have to resign yourself to endlessly looping through the same reality. You can learn to recognize the patterns, to gently disentangle your energy from the allure of the familiar, and to consciously broadcast a new, coherent signal. A signal so clear, so consistent, so resonant that the field has no alternative but to reflect it back to you as a new, tangible experience. In the upcoming section, we will delve into how to recognize the exact pivotal moment when you are about to loop back into your old frequency, and how to skillfully utilize that very moment as a portal, a gateway to shift decisively into a new one. We will uncover the subtle yet powerful signs indicating that you are on the very edge of a quantum shift, and the precise internal movements required to step into it fully, courageously, and completely. So, take another deep, conscious breath. Feel the resonance of recognition stir within your body. You are not powerless in this intricate process. You are the pattern, and, crucially, you are the one who possesses the innate power to change it. Now that you understand how the loop sustains itself through your subconscious programming and your resultant vibrational frequency, let's discuss the precise, often subtle moment where everything changes or where everything, yet again, repeats. Most people fail to recognize this pivotal moment because it doesn't announce itself with fanfare or overt clarity. It doesn't arrive accompanied by a flashing neon sign proclaiming, "You are about to break the cycle." Instead, it often arrives disguised as profound frustration, as bewildering confusion, or as the subtle, sinking sense that absolutely nothing is moving forward, that all your efforts are in vain. But herein lies the profound paradox. That very sensation of stagnation, that rising, almost unbearable tension just before you are tempted to give up, is often the exact moment you are closest to a quantum shift. Consider this: before any significant transformation, there is almost invariably a period of resistance. Not because the transformation itself is inherently wrong or flawed, but because it requires a substantial expenditure of energy to move from one established vibrational state to another. It necessitates a destabilization of the old, familiar identity before the new, more expansive one can fully take its place. That period of destabilization can feel, quite convincingly, like everything is falling apart, like nothing is working, like all your dedicated efforts have been utterly futile. But in reality, what is occurring is that the old frequency is beginning to dissolve, and your entire system, mind, body, and energy, is actively recalibrating itself to hold and sustain something new, something different. One of the most common and often misinterpreted signs that you are on the precipice of a quantum shift is the unexpected recurrence of your oldest, most deeply ingrained patterns, often with an uncharacteristic and surprising intensity. You might find yourself inexplicably slipping back into old, unwanted behaviors, attracting the same kinds of challenging situations, or feeling the sting of the same emotional triggers you genuinely believed you had outgrown and transcended. This is not a failure. This is what can be termed a flare-up, the final, potent expression of a frequency that intrinsically knows it is about to lose its long-held dominance over your life. The subconscious mind does not relinquish its control quietly or gracefully. It will rigorously test your resolve. It will subtly, and sometimes overtly, tempt you back into the familiar comfort of the known. It will present you with myriad opportunities to choose the old self once again, because that is the role it knows how to perform with practiced ease. This is precisely why so many individuals unconsciously sabotage themselves right before a significant breakthrough. Not because they are inherently weak or lacking in willpower, but because they are often unprepared for the profound emotional discomfort associated with leaving behind what is familiar, even when that familiarity is steeped in pain and limitation. Here's another key indicator. You begin to feel emotionally stretched, almost as if you are standing precariously between two distinct versions of yourself. One part of you is ardently longing for expansion, for new possibilities, for the tangible manifestation of the life you have so vividly envisioned. The other part of you is gripping tightly, with all its might, to the known, to the perceived safety of the familiar, to the ingrained patterns that have defined your existence up to this very point. This internal tug-of-war is a hallmark, a defining characteristic of the quantum shift process. It is undeniably uncomfortable, but it is also a potent sign that you are exactly where you need to be, on the threshold. At this critical juncture, many people make one of two characteristic choices. They retreat, defaulting back to their old, familiar vibrational baseline, thereby condemning themselves to repeat the same reality yet again. Or, they courageously lean into the discomfort, recognizing it not as a deterrent, but as a clear signal that they are on the verge of something profoundly, transformatively different. The choice you make in this moment determines whether you continue looping or whether you definitively shift. There is also often a physiological marker that accompanies this pivotal moment. Your body will likely resist. You might experience unexplained fatigue, persistent tension, a pervasive sense of anxiety, an unsettling restlessness, or even mild, transient symptoms of illness. This occurs because your nervous system is actively processing the energetic dissonance between your old, established identity and the new, higher frequency you are beginning to inhabit and embody. Your body has been meticulously conditioned over years to the stress, the limitations, and the emotional habits of your previous reality. Moving beyond that deep-seated conditioning inevitably requires a period of adjustment, a kind of vibrational detox. It is profoundly important to understand that this discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. On the contrary, it is compelling evidence that you are successfully disrupting the loop. The system is reacting not to harm you, but to protect the old, familiar paradigm. But if you misinterpret this discomfort as failure, you will almost certainly retreat. If, however, you recognize it as a necessary and integral part of the transformative process, you will persist and you will shift. Let's make this more practical and relatable. Imagine you are in the midst of consciously manifesting a new, fulfilling relationship, a more aligned career path, or a new level of financial abundance. You've been diligently doing the inner work, setting clear intentions, visualizing with emotional intensity, and aligning your actions with your desires. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, an old, familiar fear surfaces with potent force. What if I'm not good enough? What if I get hurt again? What if it simply doesn't work out for me? That fear, in turn, triggers familiar, conditioned behaviors you pull back emotionally. You find yourself procrastinating on important steps. You subtly lower your standards. You begin to settle for less than you truly desire. The loop is actively reactivating itself. But what if, in that precise moment, instead of defaulting to the old, ingrained behavior, you consciously paused? What if you recognized the fear not as an absolute truth, but as a lingering residue of your previous, outgrown frequency? What if you chose, in that critical moment, to breathe deeply, to consciously regulate your nervous system, to stay fully present with the discomfort without collapsing into its seductive, familiar narrative? That is the moment of quantum shift. Not when you forcibly impose a new reality, but when you consciously cease reacting to the old one. Another significant sign that you are on the edge of a profound shift is the increased appearance of synchronicity. This isn't just the random appearance of external signs, but rather the subtle, harmonious alignment of your internal and external realities. You might notice recurring number sequences, highly symbolic dreams, unexpected and serendipitous opportunities, or moments where your thoughts seem to manifest with almost instantaneous, startling speed. These are clear indications that your vibrational field is becoming more coherent, more harmoniously aligned with the potential reality you are actively calling in. However, these signs in and of themselves are not enough. They are invitations, not guarantees. The real, pivotal question is, how will you respond when they appear? Will you trust the unfolding process, even when it feels profoundly unfamiliar and uncertain? Or will you retreat to the perceived safety and predictability of your old, established patterns? The quantum shift requires you to courageously stay in the liminal space, the often uncomfortable in-between, long enough for the new frequency to stabilize and take root. This is, perhaps, the most challenging aspect of the entire process because it demands unwavering faith without immediate, tangible evidence. It requires bold action without absolute certainty. It necessitates profound presence without any explicit guarantees. But here's the beautiful, inherent paradox. It is precisely within that space of uncertainty, of not knowing, that the quantum field begins to reorganize itself around your newly established coherent frequency. The old reality starts to dissolve, not because you aggressively forced it out, but because you have ceased feeding it with your attention, your fear, and your habitual conditioned responses. You have, in essence, created a vibrational vacuum, and the field, in its infinite wisdom, responds by filling it with the reality that perfectly matches your new, embodied coherence. So, if you are noticing these signs, if your old patterns are resurfacing with surprising intensity, if your body is exhibiting signs of resistance, if synchronicities are appearing with increasing frequency, if you feel emotionally stretched between who you have been and who you are in the process of becoming, know this with absolute certainty. You are not failing, you are, in fact, shifting. In the next section, we will explore precisely how to navigate this crucial moment of transition with grace, precision, and unwavering resolve. We will discuss the specific practices that empower you to stop reacting to the old, familiar frequency and to begin consciously, consistently embodying the new one, thereby transforming the quantum shift from a mere intellectual concept into a deeply lived, tangible reality. Take a deep, centering breath. You are undeniably closer than you think. So how precisely do you shift? Not in abstract theory, not at some nebulous point in the future, but now, right here, in this potent liminal space between the old, conditioned self and the emergent one you are ready, and indeed destined, to become. The answer may genuinely surprise you, because virtually everything in our societal conditioning and personal upbringing impels us to push harder, to do more, to fix, to force, to control. But in the elegant, responsive quantum model, creation does not occur through force. It happens with effortless grace, through frequency. And frequency is not something you do. It is something you fundamentally are. To authentically shift into a new reality, you don't need to painstakingly create the future you desire from scratch. Instead, you need to learn how to tune into it. Because within the boundless expanse of the quantum field, that future, that desired reality already exists. It is not a mere fantasy. It is not a distant potential. It is, in essence, a fully realized version of you, vibrating at a specific coherent frequency that you have simply not yet consistently stabilized into. So, the pivotal question then becomes, how do you effectively stabilize into a new frequency? How do you consciously cease reacting to the old, familiar loop and begin consistently, authentically embodying a new, resonant signal? First, and perhaps most fundamentally, it commences with the body. Most individuals attempt to shift their mindset while largely ignoring their underlying physiology. But your physical body is the primary broadcasting tower of your energy. If your nervous system is chronically dysregulated, if your body is still deeply conditioned to respond with fear, tension, self-protection, or a pervasive sense of urgency, it will invariably override any new thought you attempt to implant, no matter how positive or powerful. This is precisely why you can intellectually know the right thing, you can articulate the right words, and yet still feel as though you are stuck, mired in the same old patterns. The real, substantive shift occurs when your nervous system becomes profoundly coherent with the reality you are consciously endeavoring to manifest. That means you must actively, patiently teach your body how to feel genuinely safe and at ease in unfamiliar emotional states. States like profound peace, expansive joy, heartfelt gratitude, and genuine abundance. Especially if it has spent years, or even decades, normalizing anxiety, contraction, scarcity, and pervasive self-doubt. So here is a potent practice. Instead of merely trying to affirm your way into your future self, begin to feel your way into it. Close your eyes for a moment, and bring vividly to mind the version of you who already lives, breathes, and thrives in the reality you desire. Don't just focus on what they have. More importantly, tune into how they feel. What is the dominant emotional tone of that already actualized version of you? Is it calm, confident, deeply grateful, radiantly joyful, securely anchored? Now, gently, consciously, bring that specific emotional tone into your own physical body. Do this not as a performance, not as a mental trick, but as a deliberate act of training your nervous system to stabilize in that new, desired frequency. This is not about pretending. It is about patiently, consistently rehearsing a new way of being until your entire system begins to recognize it as safe, as familiar as home. Do it slowly, gently, without any hint of force or strain. Even 5 genuine seconds of feeling authentically different can begin to interrupt the old, ingrained loop. 5 seconds of true coherence is infinitely more powerful than 5 hours of arduous mental struggle. Second, learn to observe without collapse. This means becoming acutely aware of your old, conditioned patterns without identifying with them, without becoming subsumed by them. When an old fear surfaces, instead of panicking, repressing it, or immediately acting upon it, simply watch it with a detached, compassionate curiosity. When you notice a reactive thought arising, pause, breathe, ask yourself with genuine inquiry, does this thought, this feeling, this impulse originate from the version of me I am consciously shifting out of, or from the version of me I am actively shifting into? This crucial moment of conscious observation is the bridge. It is where your true power, your agency, resides. The more consistently you can witness your internal states without collapsing into habitual reaction, the more space you create for a different, more aligned signal to emerge and resonate. Third, consciously disengage from the energy of urgency. The quantum field operates outside the constraints of linear time. It is, in essence, timeless. When you feel desperate, frantic, or intensely rushed to manifest something, your body is, in fact, signaling lack, scarcity, and a fundamental disconnection from your desired state. Even if your conscious mind is diligently visualizing the desired outcome, the underlying energy of urgency counteracts your efforts. Slow down. You do not need to chase after what is already, in potential, yours within the quantum field. You simply need to become an energetic match for it. Remember, reality doesn't shift when you try harder or push with more force. It shifts when your embodied frequency no longer supports, sustains, or resonates with the old, unwanted reality. It shifts when the energetic infrastructure of your current reality begins to naturally dissolve because it is no longer being held together by your limiting beliefs, your conditioned behaviors, your habitual emotions, and your outdated self-concept. One profoundly powerful shift in perspective. Stop demanding proof. Stop incessantly needing external signs that it's working. When you desperately look for proof too soon, you are, in essence, signaling underlying doubt and disbelief. Instead, consciously choose to treat the apparent lack of immediate external evidence as a test, a refinement of your new embodiment. Learn to smile internally when it doesn't yet look like it's working, because that is precisely when you know you are beginning to anchor a deeper, more resilient frequency. So much of authentic manifestation isn't about acquiring more. It's about meticulously removing interference, removing the noise, the tension, the urgency, the old, limiting expectations that keep you tethered to what no longer fits, what no longer serves your highest evolution. The more you consciously remove these impediments, the more naturally, the more effortlessly your authentic, desired signal comes through. You don't have to painstakingly build the new you from scratch. You simply have to cease reinforcing the one you have clearly, unequivocally outgrown. You are not truly becoming someone entirely new. You are, in fact, remembering who you already are, beneath the accumulated layers of fear, doubt, and conditioned repetition. And understand this profound shift is not linear. It doesn't always feel like straightforward, discernible progress. Sometimes it feels like profound stillness. Sometimes it feels like temporary contraction or even regression. But if you remain coherent, if you keep patiently, persistently returning to the clear signal of your future self, again and again, even quietly, even subtly, even when it feels like nothing is happening, the quantum field will begin to respond in ways you could never have forced, manipulated, or strategized into existence. Because the field doesn't respond to your arbitrary timeline. It responds with exquisite precision to your sustained alignment. And alignment isn't merely a mindset. It's a vibrational home, a state of being. So, let me ask you now, if you are feeling this subtle yet profound shift happening within you, if you know deep in your core that you are in that potent space between, if something within your very body is awakening to this truth, I invite you to comment below, I am ready to shift. Not merely because I've prompted you, but because this is your moment to claim it, to declare it, to speak it from the burgeoning essence of your new self. To anchor this new frequency firmly in the field, not just with fleeting thoughts, but with deep, embodied resonance. And now we are almost there. In the final, culminating section, we will bring all these threads together. You will learn how to walk through your days with this newfound coherence, how to live this profound shift day by day, moment by moment, and how to embody it so completely, so authentically, that you become the frequency, and the field, in its perfect responsiveness, has no choice but to mirror it back to you as your lived reality. You've journeyed this far. You've gained insight into how the loop of repetition sustains itself, how your subconscious mind diligently maintains the very patterns that keep your reality on a seemingly endless repeat, and how your physical body often clings to the emotional signatures of your past self like a worn, yet familiar security blanket. You've learned that the quantum field doesn't arbitrarily resist your desires, but instead, faithfully, meticulously reflects the frequency you consistently, often unconsciously broadcast, not what you merely want, but what you fundamentally are at an energetic level. And now, here you stand, poised on the very edge of a new reality. This threshold isn't located somewhere out there in your distant future. It is right here, in this present potent moment, as you consciously decide to embody a different frequency. As you choose to move beyond conditioned reaction and ingrained repetition, to step fully into your power as the deliberate creator of your reality, rather than remaining an unconscious participant in its relentless, cyclical reenactment. Let's be unequivocally clear about something essential. The quantum shift is rarely a singular, cataclysmic, one-time event. It's not typically a dramatic explosion that forever alters everything in an instant, although on occasion, it can certainly feel that way. More often, it is subtle, quiet, and almost imperceptible accumulation of micro-decisions, micro-shifts, tiny yet pivotal moments where you consciously choose to observe instead of react, to soften instead of tense, to trust instead of panic. Each and every time you choose presence over programming, alignment over urgency, coherence over chaos, you are shifting. You are gracefully, powerfully stepping out of the old loop and into the boundless field of infinite possibilities, where new realities can, and do, collapse into tangible form, not through strenuous effort, but through effortless, harmonious resonance. This is the profound secret that most people never fully realize. Your future is not something you relentlessly chase or arduously build. It is something you exquisitely tune into. It is a specific frequency that you learn to stabilize within so consistently, so confidently, that the quantum field, in its perfect responsiveness, has no alternative but to organize itself around your new dominant signal. This is what it truly means to live as your quantum self, to recognize, deep within your being, that you are not separate from the version of you who already inhabits the reality you deeply desire. You are, in fact, intricately, energetically entangled with that version right now across the vast expanse of the field. The only pertinent question is, which signal are you currently actively reinforcing with your predominant thoughts, your habitual emotions, your consistent behaviors, your daily choices? The loop finally, definitively ends when you consciously stop feeding it, when you cease rehearsing the same limiting inner conversations, when you stop entertaining the same corrosive doubts, when you stop perpetuating the same outdated self-concepts that no longer fit the expansive being you are becoming. The shift happens, organically and naturally, when you allow those old, restrictive patterns to dissolve, not through aggressive force or mental wrestling, but through the gentle, profound power of non-resistance and compassionate observation. And here is the most exquisitely beautiful part of this entire process. You do not have to do this perfectly. The quantum field does not demand or require perfection. It only asks for consistency, for genuine coherence, for the unwavering willingness to return, again and again, to the resonant signal of your future self, even when, and especially when, your current external reality hasn't yet caught up. Because that is the true test. Not whether you can shift when everything is flowing easily and effortlessly, but whether you can steadfastly hold your desired frequency when there is, as yet, no discernible external evidence that anything is tangibly changing. Can you continue to broadcast the clear signal of abundance when your bank account still appears to reflect scarcity? Can you remain steadfastly aligned with the frequency of love when your current relationships still feel turbulent or unfulfilling? Can you deeply, unshakably trust the process of the shift when the old loop is still visibly, palpably present in your external world? This is precisely where most people give up. They misinterpret the lack of immediate, tangible results as a definitive sign that it's not working, that they are somehow not good enough, that manifestation itself is a lie or a cruel illusion. But you know better now. You understand that the field responds to your embodied, sustained frequency, not to your momentary frustration or fleeting doubt. You know that the shift occurs first in the invisible realm of energy and consciousness, and only later manifests in the visible material world. You know that the reality you are courageously stepping into doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be patiently, gracefully received. So, let me ask you now, as we approach the culmination of this shared journey, are you genuinely willing to keep broadcasting the new, resonant signal, even when the gravitational pull of the old loop tries to lure you back into its familiar embrace? Are you truly willing to walk, to live, to be as the person who has already shifted, even before the external world fully reflects that transformation back to you? Because that, in essence, is the only real question remaining. The practices, the theories, the techniques, they all ultimately point to this single pivotal choice. Will you consistently choose coherence over chaos? Will you deliberately choose resonance over reaction? Will you courageously choose to stabilize, to anchor in the frequency of your future self, not just as an occasional practice, but as a fundamental, unwavering way of being? If your answer is a heartfelt, resounding yes, then you have already shifted far more than you perhaps realize. The field is already responding. The new reality is already, subtly yet surely, organizing itself around your new, coherent signal. It may take time, as perceived in our linear fashion, for all the pieces to rearrange themselves, for all the lingering echoes of the old loop to completely fade, but the foundational shift has already irrevocably begun within you. So breathe that profound realization in. Let it settle deep within your cells, your consciousness. Let the knowing of your innate power deepen, not as an abstract intellectual concept, but as a tangible, embodied truth. You are not a victim of your reality. You are, and always have been, its magnificent creator. You always will be. And if this journey, this exploration, has resonated deeply with you, if you have felt seen, understood, and perhaps even expanded by these words, I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not merely to keep watching videos, but to stay connected to a space, a community, that actively supports your ongoing evolution, your deepening alignment, your continuous, beautiful expansion. This is more than just content. It is a collective, a community of conscious quantum creators, just like you, all learning to live in profound coherence with the reality they intuitively know is possible. So, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow together. Let's continue to shift together. Let's continue, courageously and joyfully, to become who we were always, truly meant to be. The loop ends here. The shift begins now. Welcome to your new frequency.